Hi everyone, thank you for joining this session. My name is Samantha Benjamin. I'm currently a Growth and Product Monetization Team Leader at Supersonic. I'm over 3 years in ironSource. I started as a Growth Partnership Manager focused on the monetization and helping developers find how to maximize their ad revenue through ironSource products. I then moved on to a hyper-casual oriented field and started dealing with user acquisition and monetization for our strategic partners. And in the last year, I've been leading the monetization and growth team in Supersonic. So the agenda for today, we're going to recap a little bit of the fundamentals in monetization, talk about the KPIs and some basics of rewarded video and interstitials. Then we will talk about some tips for rewarded video placements, tips for interstitials, and gather all the key takeaways in a summary slide. So to start, let's recap a little bit of the fundamentals. When looking at rewarded videos, it's a very sophisticated ad unit. So you should think about it from the get-go. From day one, once you start thinking about your game development, rewarded video should be kept in mind because it needs to be something that feels like a part of the game progression, and it needs to be something valuable for the user in order for him to want to engage, right? It's a user-initiated ad unit. So if what we are offering the users doesn't feel like a flow or a need in the game, it will not be attractive enough for users to engage with it. It also needs to be very diversified in terms of placements and also the items that we are offering in order for us to appeal to most of our audience. So imagine that you have nowadays a very different variety of players, right? You could have a 6-year-old boy as well as you could have a 50-year-old lady playing the same game. And in order for us to make sure that our rewards are attractive enough for everyone, the more diversified they are, the better. So some people may be attracted to getting coins, and others may be getting additional skins or boosters in order to progress in the game. It's very important to have the commercial break happen in a natural pause or break in the game because you don't want to disturb the player during the gameplay. Besides for the natural pause in the game to show the rewarded video ad, we also need to make sure that the button is very visible and clear to the users, meaning that within 2 seconds, me as a player, I can understand what this button is offering me in terms of a reward, and I also understand that I'm about to pressing something that will show me a video for maybe 30 seconds long, right? Because what can happen is if the user isn't expecting to be stuck in a video, it may be a very bad user experience. So we want to add this video icon to make sure they understand they're about to watch a video, which everyone in the industry is pretty used to nowadays. And also that they understand that the reward is good enough, so they will want to engage with it. It needs to be dynamic and exponential in the sense that when you're playing a game in level 5, you may need $100 to buy an item, but once you advance to level 150, $100 is no longer attractive enough. So in order to keep the users engaged as they advance and as the economy of the game becomes more expensive, the reward needs to be exponential. And in the end of the day, always A/B test, right? A/B test, make data-driven decisions, and don't just go with your gut feelings because a lot of times we may be wrong. All right, now let's talk about interstitials. Interstitial ads is very misunderstood by the industry because we think there isn't a lot of things we can do in order to optimize, and actually there are, and we'll talk about it later on in the presentation. But the main points I wanted to recap on is that when you think about interstitials, you want to think about retention, right? Because interstitials, as opposed to rewarded video, is an ad unit that actually has somewhat a negative impact to your game KPIs. So we want to keep a close eye to retention and make sure we minimize the drop in retention while maximizing the increase we make in revenue. The sweet spot is what we call it, is this place where you're maximizing revenue while bringing the minimum drop in retention. It can be found through A/B testing, and in interstitials, any idea you have or anything you want to do, you have to A/B test. And one tip that I can give you guys from the industry and from my experience is that it helps a lot if you make sure that all of the network partners that you're working with have a setup of 5 to 7 seconds X button exit for the interstitials. Why? Because interstitials will hurt your retention, but sometimes they hurt a lot more than they should because some networks have by default, a 15 to 20 second long interstitial ad, and this isn't the industry best practices. So just make sure to communicate to all of your partners and to have the right setups done on your networks. Now, just to give you a quick overview of the KPIs that we're going to talk about, obviously you guys may be very familiar with it, but I divided it into 3 sections. One of them is the ad analytics, and when talking about ad analytics, we're talking about ad revenue only. And the main KPIs that are dominating this section is impressions, right? The amount of ads users are generating in your game, engagement rate with rewarded video, how many out of your daily active users are actually engaging at least once in a day with a rewarded ad, and show rate for interstitials, which is the same way, how many out of your 100% daily active users are deciding or seeing at least one interstitials in a day. And then in the second section, we have the in-game analytics, which is, everyone is familiar with retention and playtime. And basically, these are important KPIs also when dealing with ads because they can help us understand how to better strategize our ad monetization. If you have a very long playtime, you have a lot of opportunities to show interstitials. If you have a very low retention, you may be very skeptical with the decisions you make about interstitials, and basically combining both of these sections together is what brings you your overall revenue, LTV, or average revenue per user. Now we will deep dive a little bit into the tips for rewarded video placements. And actually I created these 4 groups of ad placements, okay, that I like to say that for every single game we have coming out, you should have at least one rewarded video in each of these groups. We'll deep dive into each of them and give you some examples of things we have from our games in Supersonic. But we'll basically talk about monetary value rewards, progression value rewards, surprise and try your luck, and unlock special content. All right, so monetary value rewards is basically rewards that supply the player with in-game currency. If you're an IAP-oriented publisher or game developer, make sure that it's connected to your soft currency and not to your hard currency so that it doesn't compete with your store. But basically, it's any type of reward that is directly connected to the game economy. And here are some examples. So we have the classic example of increase your winnings at the level end, right? So the winnings are something that the players worked for throughout the level, and at the end of the level, they are rewarded with something. And we offer users an option to double or triple or multiply by 5 times their winnings if they engage with a rewarded ad. And some unknown or maybe known tips that I want to share here is that there is different ways of doing the same exact placement. One of them will be showing the exact total amount that the user will get, which is the first screenshot you will see. And basically, the second way of doing it is just showing a multiplier, right? Times 3, times 4. What's the main difference is that one, it simplifies the thought and the mathematics behind it, right? By saying you will get times 3 what you made. And the other one, you need to calculate it yourself to understand what's the total value. But basically, both of them are very appealing, and you can A/B test and find which one works the best for your game. Another thing we also A/B test is actually the colors of the buttons. And we see with time that green is a very attractive color that generates a lot of clicks. So we do recommend using green from the get-go and then adjusting it a little bit to look and feel more like your game as you advance. For every single placement that I'll talk about, you guys will see that there are benchmarks that we wrote, okay? This is benchmarks that we brought from our own games, and basically very hyper-casual oriented, but you have the engagement rate per placement, meaning not the engagement rate for rewarded video within the game, but for this specific placement in the game, what's the amount of engaged users, as well as the usage rate, which is the amount of impressions each engaged user is generating. This will be a benchmark that you have throughout all of the presentation for all the placements that we'll talk about. The next one is a currency reward, and basically it's actually offering the users cash, coins, and unrelated to winning a level or not. And usually we recommend setting it on the store because the store is a place users are going to spend money. So obviously it's a great place to offer them additional money for watching a video. And besides for the store, the problem, I would say, with the store is that you already lose a big chunk of your audience because not everyone is going inside the store. So if you want to maximize the viewability of that placement, you can set it also in the home page, right? And if you have an issue with like overpaying users and causing some sort of unbalance to your game economy, you can just cap these according to what you see fit. So basically, we highly recommend setting it one inside the store and one in the home page, and it's a very successful and easy to do placement that generates a nice engagement rate. The next one is a bit more innovative, and we see it a lot across idle games, and basically that's the floating money bags. Basically, it can be a floating money bag, or it can be just floating money, or it can be floating gems, whatever you decide. But the coolness of it is that it's like moving around. So it works really well when you have a static background, and you can just catch the user's attention because there's this moving thing. There's another thing that it creates, which is like a FOMO effect, right? Because the user doesn't know when it's coming. And when it comes, he knows it will last only for a certain amount of seconds. So either you go and you engage with it, or you give up and you lose the money. So it generates a really, really high engagement rate. The KPIs we have over here are mainly for idle games. So obviously they're like a bit higher than the standard, but it's definitely successful, and we're seeing it more and more even across other genres, not only idle. This is a nice example, just so you guys see, of this specific placement within a game and the comparison of how successful it is in terms of engagement rate, right? So definitely a good one to have. The next one that we'll talk about is the progression value rewarded video, okay? And basically progression value is rewards that are directly enabling the players to progress faster, right? So they're connected to the game progression, they're making it a bit easier for you to go and advance. And these are also very, very successful rewarded video placements. We have the classic ones, right? Very commonly used, especially in hyper-casual. When you lose a level, you get a second chance to play it from where you stopped and you lost last time. And by clicking on the revive button, a lot of times it is used also with a countdown effect, you know, to create that fear of missing out. So basically the users see a 5-second countdown and they can decide to either click on the button or to, you know, skip it and go back to the beginning of the level and play it all over again. Another placement is the upgrading system reward, and you know, in games that you have this sort of upgrading mechanics in the homepage, you can easily connect it to the RV. And obviously, because it's in the homepage, it catches 100% of your daily active users, and it works very, very well. A very cool thing for in-app purchase-oriented apps, let's say, is that if you give this opportunity to your players to upgrade by watching an RV instead of paying it with cash, is that they can grow their economy balance, right, their account balance in the game, and basically gather more and more cash to buy something a bit more significant, maybe inside the store, or an item that they wouldn't be able to get otherwise unless you offer them this RV opportunity every now and then. Skip level is something that we're seeing more and more often recently. It's very good for games that don't have a very deep meaning to the level and the progression you make. So if it's okay for you in the methodology and in the flow of the game to skip a level and still continue playing, then it's a great RV placement, because sometimes users can get frustrated, right? You're tired of losing over and over again in a level, so you do want to have the option to give your players like the opportunity to skip it and to play other levels that they may enjoy and connect more to. So it's another very good RV placement connected to the progression. Unlock skin or speed up reward is two types of placements that go hand on hand, meaning one after the other, and they actually work really well and they maximize the impressions you generate, right? Because there are two. So what happens is at the end of each level, you have the opportunity to speed up the progression of receiving this reward, right? This wheel in the example you're seeing. And you can do that by watching a video. It could be a 20% speed up, it could be a 5%. You can decide on the percentage depending on how difficult you want to make it for the user. And after you finally reached your 100%, if you want to claim the reward, then you click in the rewarded video button and you get the reward. So it's 2-in-1, they work great, and I highly recommend trying it. The next session is about the surprise, or I call it try your luck effect, okay? It's something that is working really, really well across, I guess, many games, and the element of it is the surprise effect, right? You don't know what you're gonna get in the reward until you actually decide to engage with the video and get the reward. Examples of it is the surprise box. It's basically like a gift box. You don't know what you're gonna get. It actually, in the example you're seeing here in Join Clash, you can see the box inside the level, which create like a cool, unique element to the level itself, and it adds a lot of value to the gameplay. But besides for that, once you reach the end of the level, you have the opportunity to unlock this gift that you gathered by watching a rewarded video, and it works amazing. The engagement rate, the experience for the user, and everything is like a great combo. And another very, very commonly used one is the spinning wheel. Spinning wheel is, everyone knows it, I guess, and you can just decide which types of reward to put in it. It could be all coins and different amounts of coins, or if you have actually some items to give to the users, then you can decide to put some items in it as well, some skins, some boosters, and once a day the first wheel is free. You can do it without having any RV connected to it, and from the second time onward, the users can decide to engage with it if they watch a video. So it's kind of like a mini game inside your game, and in the same time, you're making money from it, so it's great. The chest system. The chest system is another great reward system, and basically it adds the same element of finding it throughout the level. It's the keys, right? So you're looking for 3 keys around maybe 6 levels that you play, and once you gather these 3 keys in your balance, you will get this chest page with usually 9 boxes that you can unlock for free, right? Because you already have the keys. But if you want to unlock an additional 2 or 3, we can offer these additional keys by watching a rewarded video. Another similar but different is the pick a prize. Pick a prize, the uniqueness of it is that you have only 3 options. So basically the first one we are giving you for free, right? And we can decide to show it to you every 3, 4, 5, 6 levels, whatever goes best with the game. And the additional 2 boxes is only accessible if you watch a video. Each of them is worth 1 rewarded video. The cool side of it is because you only have 2 extra ones, you will probably watch all of them until you get the best prize, because we are showing you the best prize, and if you didn't get it in the first one, you might get it in the second one, and if not, for sure you will get it in the third one. So it makes the users engage more, and it generates a bit more impressions than other common RV placements. And the last one for the rewarded video group is the unlock special content, and this is something very new and very, very effective. So it's basically a premium, unique reward that it's only obtainable through rewarded videos. So we created the content especially for RV. An example of it is a booster in the beginning of a hard level or a boss level. So these are boosters that you need in order to win this level. One of them will be given for free, and the other 2 you can only get if you watch a video. The second type is the premium level. It could be a challenge round, it could be a boss level, it could be a bonus round, but basically it's like a level that you're opt-in through a rewarded video, and you can also skip if you don't want to play it, but it's a unique level that you can only play if you decide to engage with rewarded video. It works amazingly, and you can see it in this chart, like an amazing example from one of our games where the engagement rate of rewarded video was around 10%, and once we added this premium level, happening every 5 levels with the rewarded video proposal, the engagement rate jumped up to 30%, 35% even. And that helped us increase our overall LTV by 10% just by adding this unique content to the game and connecting it to the rewarded videos. So it's a great, easy win in case you don't have it in your games yet. Now that we talked about all of the 4 types of placements for RV and deep dived a little bit into examples of each, we will talk about interstitials. Which today I think is a little bit under-optimized in this industry, and we should and could optimize interstitials very well. It doesn't need to be as sophisticated as rewarded video, but definitely there is a lot we can do, and we'll talk about a few examples of A/B tests, right? So interstitials, as you can see in this chart, there is a negative correlation to the retention. Retention will start dropping the more and more you show interstitials ads, while your ad revenue will always increase, right? Because the more impressions you get, the more revenue you make. So that combination where both of them meet is your sweet spot where you're maximizing your revenue while minimizing the drop in retention. And how do we find this sweet spot? Only through A/B tests. So the common A/B test, or the classic A/B test for interstitials, is basically the cooldown timers, where you test in 20 seconds versus 30 seconds versus 40 seconds versus 80 seconds. You want to decide what is the best interval of showing interstitials in your game, right? It could be very short or it could be longer. It depends on the game, and honestly, every single A/B test will give you a different result according to the game. So I always recommend A/B testing it and finding what we call your sweet spot. Another A/B test that is a very classic one is the levels. Basically, is deciding, should we show interstitials to users right after the first level, or should we let the users get a little bit more hooked in our game and let them have like a clean interstitials-free experience until a later level. So this is something that we've seen win cases even in hyper-casual for both scenarios, right? So we have some games that we are showing it right away from the get-go, and some games that we are showing it from level 10. Why? Usually I can say we see a connection between strong late retention and showing it at later levels. And for games that have a weaker later retention, you want to maximize as much as possible in the early stages, right? So showing it from earlier levels. But again, always A/B test and you will find the best results for your game. An additional A/B test that we are trying more and more often, and it's kind of new, is showing interstitials in the middle of the level. And I guess this is very hyper-casual oriented. I'm not sure any IAP-oriented developer would try that, but basically mid-level interstitials is something that we're seeing more and more in our industry, and it happens that sometimes there are games that you can't lose, right? And playing during a level can take a long time until the user completes this level. So in order for you to maximize your LTV, you have to somehow find a break within the level to show interstitials. And it could feel kind of like a very natural and clean break if you build it the right way. One of the KPIs that you have in the screen over here is what we call the full screen frequency. Full screen frequency is basically the combination of interstitials and rewarded video impressions, okay? And it's showing you how often in seconds you're showing ads in your game. The goal is to be, for us at least, around 100 or below, so every 100 or 80 seconds to be showing an ad. And if you see that your full screen frequency is higher, then it gives you the opportunity to optimize interstitials, right? To either make your levels shorter so that you can have more commercial breaks, or to find a way to introducing mid-level interstitials into your game. And over here you can see an example of another A/B test that we are doing it more and more, and that's the before win page versus after win page interstitials A/B test. What do I mean by that? Is showing interstitials at the second I finish the level, but before I see that end level screen, or showing interstitials after the user decided to not engage with rewarded video. So usually at the end level screen, you have the RV proposal, right? To double your winnings, to revive, whatever you decided to put there. And we thought giving the RV engaged users the premium experience of not seeing interstitials is something good. But we actually found out that for all of the other users who are not actually engaging with RV and they say no thanks, and then we show them an interstitial ads that they feel disrespected in a way, right? So they're saying they don't want to see an ad, but anyway, we're showing them an interstitial. So for those users, we started the A/B testing the opposite scenario of showing interstitials before this end level page and seeing how would be the behavior and the LTV results after that. And we see that it caused a very nice uplift to our LTV, not in every game, but in a couple of games we had a big success case of even 10-15% uplifts. And we're doing it more and more to all of our games. So these are 4 major, very significant A/B tests that you can do in interstitials, and I highly recommend trying and optimizing. All right, so now the takeaways of this session. Basically, keep up with market trends. It's a very important part of our job to make sure that we are playing as many games as we can and bringing in new, fresh ideas into our own games. And sometimes even experiment ideas that aren't out there yet. Think of ads from day one. If you thought about ads when you're developing your game from the beginning, you will see the value from it in your revenue afterwards. So definitely keep it in mind from the beginning and make sure you create that uniqueness for the rewarded video inside your game. Make data-driven decisions. A/B testing is the king, so definitely ignore your gut feeling. Go with the data, go with maximizing your LTV, and make the decisions based on data. Segment your players in case you're IAP oriented, so make sure that maybe don't show interstitials to your premium players, so show it to the players, to the big percentage of players that are not engaging with rewarded video and they're also not making an in-app purchase. And the bottom line, to boost your LTV, make sure you optimize with ads, that you maximize the optimizations for both interstitials and rewarded video, and I guarantee you'll get the best out of both worlds. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed and you learned valuable lessons, and enjoy your next sessions.